Hello, my sweet students. How are you? I really miss you all. Today we are going to discuss our new grammar, which is relative clauses. Actually, this grammar will be found in your action pack as well as your aim high. This is why I want you to pay a lot of attention to understand the whole idea. So, to start our grammar today, I want you to think of relative clauses. What do we mean by a relative clause? What is a relative clause? Actually, a relative clause, it is something like a sentence which gives information about a noun. So a relative clause, what is a clause? It is something like a sentence. طيب, why this sentence is important? Because it gives information about a noun. هي مثل الاسم الموصول أو الجملة الوصل اللي بتعرف عن اسم. So, a relative clause, again, I want you to pay attention to this. A relative clause, it is a sentence or it is like a sentence which gives information about a noun. Let's check the example here. That is the woman who bought my house. Look at this sentence. That is the woman. So woman is the noun, right? So what is the information I gave about the woman? So woman is the noun. I give information about her, which is who bought my house. Woman هي الاسم اللي أنا أعطيتك information about the woman, about the noun. شو المعلومة اللي أعطيتك إياها? Who bought my house? اللي اشترت بيتي. So, a relative clause is a sentence which gives information about a noun. Where is the noun? It is the woman. Where is the relative clause? The relative clause is who bought my house. هاي هي جملة which gives information. شو أعطتني معلومة عن الwoman؟ إنها اشترت البيت. So, a relative clause is a sentence. It's like a sentence which gives information about a noun. طيب, why do we call a relative clause a relative clause? ليش اسمه relative clause؟ منين جايب اسمه؟ Because it contains relative pronoun. So a relative clause contains a relative pronoun. A relative لازم أعرف شغلة. A relative clause gives information about a noun. بعطينا معلومات عن الاسم. Why do we call it relative clause? اسمه relative clause منين جايبه? Because it contains relative pronoun. Relative pronoun in Arabic means اسم موصول. الذي، التي، اللتان، الذين, whatever. Okay. So, what is a relative pronoun? أسماء الوصل in English are who, which, whose, that, where, and when. Why do we use who? You know that who, we use it to talk about people, to talk about persons. So who is a relative pronoun to talk about people. Which, we use it to talk about things, animals, objects, يعني not humans. Okay? Who's to talk about position, الملكية. That, we use it to talk about people or animals. So we can use it instead of who or which. Where, of course, to talk about places, and when to talk about time. طيب. So the information we need to focus on again, that we have a relative clause. I need to know what is a relative clause. A relative clause, it is something like a sentence which gives information about a noun. تعطينا معلومات عن الاسم. I have to know where is the noun, then I have to look at the relative clause. Why do we call a relative clause a relative clause? ليش اسمه relative clause? Because it contains relative pronoun. What are the relative pronouns in English? شو هي الأسماء الموصولة بالإنجليش؟ هي who, we use it to talk about people. Which, we use it to talk about things, not people, but things, objects, animals, such as book, car, a pen. Who's to talk about position, الملكية, ضمائر الملكية اللي هي her, his book, her book, my book, your pen. Or when I say Alaa's book, Sarah's car, Ahmad's book, that we use it to talk about animals or humans. And where, of course, to talk about places like cities, towns, countries. When, to talk about time, like days, months, years. Okay.